Okay, so long time no see, everyone. Yeah, I guess, do we have everyone? Yeah, it seems like it. Okay, so we can get started. On my end, I have two main topics, mainly the half restore process and then the beneficiaries reward hard cap, some of which have been brought during the Berlin conference thingy. But in terms of core sync, dev sync, what I've been working on is mostly Hivemind these days. I'm trying to get the tests in order for communities types 3 and 2, but I'm stuck with the restoring process, which drastically slows my progress. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Still working on Hivemind overall and writing some documentation on the way. Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay. Okay, I think just to quickly address the restore point, I think that feature is pretty much done now. If I believe Bartek hasn't merged it in yet, but I think he said he was going to merge it in shortly. Is that correct, Bartek?
Yes, exactly. And I hope it will be merged during our meeting.
Good
When
timing.
Hey, nice.
when pipeline completes, sorry for delays, but we had a headache related to some helper library, open source library, which we are using while during our testing. It seemed that this library has very strange bugs, which randomly perform test failure on CI. And I spent actually last 2 weeks on analyzing what happens and why it doesn't work, and partially fixed this library to get process much more reliable and stable. And I hope further development will be much more easy because really a significant part of my day was related to retrying randomly failed jobs. So it won't be nice if someone wants to do something much more important than clicking again. But
Okay. Yep.
fix is done. I have just verified it once again, and dump and restore works. It will have, as I said, very soon. Then I will make another merge quest to bump half version if Hivemind repository to be sure that everything works also there. So you will be able to just rebase on next version of that. I hope most of your development problems.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Because yeah, I also noticed the failing, the randomly failing stuff. Yeah, if all of that is getting fixed, that's super good news. Very
So
good.
just to mention a few more words. So that library he's talking about is the one I mentioned in my last post. I posted a post yesterday. I guess you probably saw already, which basically covers some of the stuff we've done, but it's in a kind of very condensed form, so it might not always be clear exactly what I'm talking about. Anyways, that I mentioned in there the lib fake time library. That's the third-party library that Bartek found the errors in. So I didn't realize it 2 weeks of time had been invested in that, but I guess that's just the way things go in programming, unfortunately. Especially when it's not your own code, you have to learn someone else's code.
Yes, but actually it was not biggest problem to fix that library. Biggest problem was to find why tests are timing out, and the reason was that randomly Hive now stopped to produce blocks
Oh,
at
so
our
that's another
test.
error. Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes, and the reason was just backing such library which allow us to shift time, have time lapse, and this way we can produce a lot more blocks in the same real time. So library is very helpful, very useful for testing, but unfortunately has some drawbacks. but I hope it can be used still for our pipelines and allow us test software much better than
Yeah.
current.
Yeah, well, certainly we can't afford to wait for real time during our tests when we have 3-second block intervals. Yeah, okay. So along the same lines, we did actually, since I guess we're probably switching to what we did at this point, we did fix several issues, I guess, that related to random test failures that, as Bartek's mentioned, has been plaguing us and obviously plaguing Howa as well. So I think seems like we've gotten past that now. So that's, I think, really good news. While we're talking about testing, we've done a lot more inside the testing environment too, not only in terms of fixing those intermittent errors, but sort of unifying the way we're doing our testing more across all the different applications and sort of creating a standardized way for someone who's creating a half app to then introduce testing for their application. And as part of that process, one of the things we did is we really wanted to speed up, make it be able to run tests faster, because we know that's always an issue, right? The more tests you get, the slower your test time, and the more applications we get, the more we need it to be as efficient as possible in terms of our testing. Because while we have decent hardware resources, we don't have infinite hardware resources for testing. So we've been making a lot of changes to essentially reuse test results where possible, instead of having to rerun them when there's no need to. So if, for instance, there's no significant change in HiveD, we don't need to regenerate HiveD data like the state files in order to do a half test. So we've got stuff now that detects if the HiveD code hasn't changed, isn't affected by the commits that are being made, and then it can reuse that kind of data instead of regenerating it. So it makes the test run faster, and our test servers do a lot less work too. So, and that functionality is really useful across not only HiveD, but half and even every half app, basically. So that was a nice improvement. It's, I think, pretty much near done now, if not completely done. I guess it's probably pretty much completely done now, Bartek. Is that right? I guess there's a few. We haven't done it for all the half apps. We still, maybe a few. Is there any half apps we still need to do it for?
Yes, it wasn't done for all apps, but mostly this was completed. And as we talked at Friday, Hiveband wasn't yet
Yes, that's right.
adjusted to this scheme, but today I merged some changes there too. And I think most of our applications, most important applications, already uses this scheme. And as Dan said, we will have more testing, because we are developing some helper half applications which are big enough to start them testing at CI. For example, Balance Tracker and Block Explorer tools will require it very soon. So applying given scheme at many applications definitely can improve speed up of tests and simplify them.
So, and so I guess it's sort of an overall view of what we've been doing lately. A lot of our effort has been focused on half and half applications. So sort of our way of eating our own dog food, so to speak. We've been creating a bunch of half apps of varying complexity in order to test the system and find problems. And of course, they're actually apps we want anyway. So probably the biggest one of those new, in terms of new half applications, is the half-based block explorer that Bartek just mentioned. And one of the things we had in mind for half apps early in the design of half was to have the ability to take the capabilities of other half apps and reuse them inside a half app. So an example here is the half block explorer needs the ability to report balances of accounts. Uh, and so we have this other application we designed as a sort of example app for half very early on. It's a very simple app. It's just purely SQL based, that tracks the account balances, uh, Hive and HBD account balances. So we needed to use that. We needed that capability inside Half Block Explorer. So we started trying to integrate that, and during that process, we found minor issues with Half being able to combine apps in that way. So we resolved those issues. So there's one of the issues I mentioned was the multiple context handling was a new feature, and we So we added that to Half, and now that's been incorporated into the Half Block Explorer, and that's how the Half Block Explorer is now able to utilize the functionality of the balance tracker inside itself. And while we're doing that, we also have been extending the capabilities of the balance tracker. So now not only can it track Hive and HBD balances, but it can track savings balances, rewards balances. It tracks vest delegations. It tracks updates to withdrawal routes for power down routes. So a bunch of new capabilities have been added to the balance tracker as needed by the Block Explorer. But all those capabilities now can be reused. Basically, you could create your own half app now and integrate the balance tracker into it if you need those kind of capabilities inside your own application. So that's kind of where we've been going, is trying to make Half into like a highly like a building block infrastructure where we can add new capable. So essentially, Half app is really kind of like, it's like an API. It's like a set of API calls, and so now you can mix and match these sets of API calls as needed by your upper level GUI application that is ultimately making access to these API calls. And this is really kind of fulfilling the promise that we originally were looking at when we first, I guess, early on in the start of Hive. We had this idea that we should update the API. The API was kind of, the original API for Hive was created back in the Steemit days. It's sort of ad hoc as things happened, new APIs got added and then they got replaced. And so we always talked about overhauling the API, but I wanted to do it in a way that allowed flexibility, because we didn't want to just create this horrendously huge API, but at the same time, we needed the ability to have custom API functionality. And that's really what Half is doing. Half is effectively kind of our approach to solving a second generation API for Hive. So if you want a bunch of the legacy API, you incorporate Hivemine into your application. If you can create your own API for your own app, and then we have these building blocks like the balance tracker, where if you want that access to that API, you can just incorporate it into your code. So so anyways, this process is going pretty well, I'd say. We feel like we've been resolving the problems that come up. We're also working, another thing we're working on Half, besides making sure that we can do this kind of reusability, we're also interested in making sure it's very performant, very efficient. Um, and along those lines, the Block Explorer was also very good for that, because it does some fairly complex queries on the data, and we saw issues where we could be doing subqueries too often, which could slow down processing of the blockchain data. And so, as to solve that, we created this new concept, which I guess we refer to typically as structural operations types. So basically, what we've done is, for the various blockchain operations, we've modeled them inside as SQL types, which are basically composite records, fields, basically fields for the operations. And then we have parsers that basically parse the database, if you will. Maybe it's not really parsing, but we can look at it that way a little bit. It's kind of parsing the operations JSON, and then it converts it into a structural form, uh, which is more pleasant for a program to actually consume. And by doing it this way, it can eliminate multiple queries to the database. It gets it to a form that once it's in that intermediate form, your SQL code could just work on these types for analyzing the operations and processing. So we did that. We added that functionality, and we've incorporated the balance trackers now using it. And later we'll rewrite some of the other apps to use that same approach to processing of operations. I think Hivemine will be one, and others as well. I don't know if we did it for the balance tracker yet. I can't remember. I don't think we did yet, but I don't think we expect a lot of gains for the balance tracker either anyway. So let's see. So what else? I guess at an overall level, that kind of covers where we're going with Half. I mean, there's a lot of details on what we're doing along the way. Oh, I guess one more thing that's kind of interesting that we're doing is we did, I guess earlier we announced that we were changing the format of the internal storage format for the operations table, which is the largest table in the database by far, and that allowed us to shrink the size of the Half database significantly. Uh, but even so, we found that when we did a save and restore, for instance, it was saving into a larger format. So essentially, the restore format was actually significantly larger than the database format itself. So we're updating the save and restore formats for the database now to make that more efficient and match more closely with what the database internal size is, and also to be faster too, because not only, of course, if the database is smaller being written out and restored, it tends to be faster to process. Let's see what else. I'm not going to go over all the things that we're doing inside the Block Explorer itself yet. I suppose I don't have a real date yet for where we'll sort of set up a public instance of it. It's still pretty early and there's some issues to be worked out, but my guess is in a month or so, we'll probably have something ready along those lines. So I guess departing from the hash stuff a bit, I'll talk about some of the other stuff we're doing. We've been working as well on continuing to work on CLive, the basic it's a Python-based wallet that runs locally, and also Beekeeper, which that wallet uses to manage keys. So one of the things we're looking at for the Beekeeper is the possibility to also allow it to be run inside a web browser, and that's kind of a new thing. So that's just early work going on there. And on the CLive side, I think I'm going to see a beta of it that allows for transactions probably in a week or so. And then depending on how that goes, we might set up a public and we might basically encourage some more people to play with it, even just as a tool for doing transfers and things like that that's secure. And look for problems and basically help us out testing, etc. I mean, we are doing some other stuff, but I don't want to talk about it yet. It's too early. So I'll wait for some of that stuff to get a little closer to fruition before I talk about it too much. Oh, but yes, one more thing I should talk about, and that's the query supervisor, the SQL query supervisor. So basically what this is a way to measure the impact of queries on a half database, or actually in theory, any SQL database, and allows us to do things like determine when you do a query to a database, how much of the disk needs to be read in order to process the query, how much disk might get modified as a result of the query, that type of thing. And so the idea is to use the SQL supervisor as a way to time out queries, detect queries that are taking too long, um, and basically time them out if they're too long, for instance. And so this will be important in two applications. The long-term one, which is really the key one that drove it, which is for smart contracts. When people are running smart contracts, SQL queries, we want to be sure that they don't, basically tie up the whole smart contract engine. So we need a way to stop them, terminate them if they're taking too long. And then the other use of this query supervisor will be for like when we want to create just like a public half instance that's actually accessible, that you could directly send read-only queries to it to say ask questions. This would be something similar, I guess, in nature to I forget what it's called, but Hive SQL, I guess, Archangel's product, which you can basically send queries to his database and it'll give you information about the blockchain. So this will allow us to do a similar thing, except have some kind of rate limiting on it, so that we can make something like this pretty public and still have a way that it's not subject to easy denial of service attacks. So I guess I'm sure I missed something, but that's probably enough for me to talk about right now. I can't remember anymore off the top of my head. So if anybody else wants to chime in with what they've been doing lately, feel free.
I have one question. I think I found not an issue, but a special case with savings. So the case is when someone wants to clear his savings account. Let's say, for example, that Alice has 1,000 HBD that she withdraw everything for her savings, and she sells all her HBD. But then she still has, let's say, for example, 100 HBD to claim in 10 days. So 10 days later, she's not able to claim her interest because she has no more liquid HBD. She can withdraw them, but she need to wait 3 days, and it's kind of a loop, because when she will withdraw her HBD, there will be new interest and so on. So
Okay, I assume this gets pretty minimal.
yeah, but it's pretty annoying.
Okay, well, I'm not sure that's you can create an issue to describe the issue, but I'm not sure I fully understand it, but if I understand it properly, it seems like it would be for a relatively very small amount. in its final form.
Yeah, but you have to do it over and over until there is, let's say, a few cents left. But you cannot clean it because
yeah,
they will, unless you
there will
are
always be a penny or
precisely
two. I get
timing.
it.
Yeah, you need to claim exactly at the second where you can claim your interest. If you are a bit too late, then there are new interests created.
Right, but I mean, what you could do is just claim your interest and then withdraw it, right? I
Yes,
think the problem is
but
probably she's got it automatically claiming or something like that instead of manually.
yes, but timing is key at this moment. If you don't want to be left with a few cents or a few HPD,
I mean, I think
that's
it's
it.
simple, right? You turn off auto claiming, which isn't even a feature of the blockchain or anything, but a lot of people are using the auto claiming features of like keychain and stuff like that. But if you just claim your interest and then I guess would trigger withdrawal, I think the problem is mostly solved. You might have to do it one more time because you gain some additional interest in the meantime before the 3 days before it comes out. But it's only 3 days of interest. It shouldn't wind up being much, I wouldn't expect.
Mhm.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding the problem. So if you want to write up an issue that describes it more fully, I can, just to be sure I'm not misinterpreted the issue. But
Yeah.
if it's what I'm thinking, it sounds quite small.
Yeah. Okay, I will open an issue.
Okay.
And I have another question. Will we make account creation tickets transferable or not?
I don't want to do so. Honestly, I've never been a fan of them to begin with. I think they were created as a scheme to essentially get Steam to not have to to do what it said it was going to do with the Steam that it had, which was namely onboard new users. So they created this idea of we'll just give free tickets away instead, and then we could stop having to pay for that. That's always been my view of that issue. It seemed kind of obvious the way they designed it. But on the other hand, I know people do make use of them, and I haven't made a strong push to get rid of it entirely because I guess people found it useful in some ways or another. But I don't think making it transferable is a good idea. I think that only cheapens it more and turns it into essentially some kind of money grab for large accounts to be able to get free accounts that they can resell for cash. So it's never been something I've been very interested in making them transferable.
Okay, that's all for me.
Okay. Any questions about any of the stuff I talked about, especially if it's any of the Hive stuff? I mean, the half stuff, because that's going to impact. I think so. I don't think a lot of the guys here are using half too much. I know Matayari is, but he's not online, so I'll probably get questions from him offline about it.
I'm just curious on next hard fork for the recurring transfer changes.
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't said it we haven't talked about it really recently. At least I haven't talked about it with either Howo or Bartek about it too much. I don't think there's a lot holding us back from a hard fork technically. I think my biggest concern right now is just the more hard forks we do, the more work it is on exchanges, and which is sad that that's a consideration, but it is. And I don't know that it's a great time to be being an annoyance to exchanges. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's not a problem. So
Yeah, I
guess it
agree
would
with
depend
that.
a little bit on the importance of the, how important it is to people, and we can take some kind of poll of what people think we should do, when we should do it.
I haven't finished writing what I need to write to make use of it yet. So I'm just trying to work out scheduling.
Yeah. So I mean, I suspect, I don't know. I need to ask Howo and Bartek about this part, but I think that part is pretty much in a good shape. Is that correct, Howo?
Yeah, on my end, it has been merged on develop, and as far as I'm concerned, it's ready.
Okay. Short of normal testing of, release before release of the whole entire blockchain, which obviously we'd have to go through before we do a hard fork.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah, that's good. So yeah.
So I'll pipe up again when I've actually written what I need to write.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds like I'm the only person kind of waiting for this, really.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody offhand that's been asking for it. So. Okay, a good question. Anyone else?
Yeah, hello guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. This is Farhad. This is the first time I'm joining, so it's a pleasure being here. Sorry for the voice quality because I'm under the weather a little bit. So
Actually, you sound pretty good, so you're doing
oh,
well.
good. Thank you. So I actually had a question regarding HiveMind. So we've been playing a bit with notifications via HiveMind. Um, on ActiveIt, we've had for a long while our own custom notifications, which are off-chain. Yeah, they're just, we store them in our own database and just notify users with notifications. So we've been looking into the HiveMind notifications, and we actually ran into an issue where we noticed that some of the notifications are not actually being sent out to the users. We did double check on several apps like Peaked and others, and the notifications don't seem to be coming through. Like a vote notification gets missed or a reply. Is this like a bug or a known bug, or anyone is aware of this issue?
I'm not aware of it, but I haven't really looked into the notifications a lot, to be honest. I mean, I'm aware of what they do, and I read my notifications. I guess I normally see votes on my notifications page, but I don't know if I'm seeing all of them. That's for sure. I've never looked at the code for how the notifications are processed, particularly. I guess Bartek, I think, is probably the most familiar with it of the
Yes, I think best is to describing the issue in specific case when notifications are lost, and we can then try to analyze this code. Maybe this code seems to be quite complicated because it is implemented in SQL using separate levels views to aggregate data and make things working fast. But once we will get exact cases when something works wrong, we can definitely answer if that's bug or some unexpected behavior, for example, by you. Hard to say right now.
Okay, I'll be happy to fire in a bug. I did mention this on the Mattermost a while ago, but yeah, I'll look into it again and send it. So the reason we're talking about this is we're trying to create some sort of an add-on or a plugin that would pop up for notifications within browser to show the users, when they receive a vote or any type of
like a real time notification.
yeah,
Basically,
exactly.
you do a push notification. Okay.
Exactly. So we thought it's a good idea, but when we noticed that many notifications are being missed, so it might not accomplish the purpose.
Yeah, I actually wonder. I wonder if it would be interesting to support those kind of notifications at the Hive-D level too, as an alternative to HiveMind if you're looking for push notifications, because we built in this notification structure inside Hive-D now, which basically you can register with Hive-D to receive notifications of various events that happen. And basically this is totally bypasses HiveMind even. I don't know. I'm sure right now, for instance, we don't push notifications for votes though. I don't know exactly what we do push notifications for, but it doesn't seem like it. If it works well, it might not be impossible that we could just add some options to Hive-D to allow direct notifications of those kind of, you could basically set a variety of things you want to be notified for and register to be notified for them or something like that. It wouldn't be something that would be enabled for every Hive node, but maybe one, like an API node of some sort, a personal API node, for instance, not a public API node that's driving an app, but I could see something like that being potentially interesting to do. And probably
Actually, I think Hive-D notifications were designed purpose to notify about changing states of Hive-D, not exactly on changing state for separate accounts. But truthfully, here I see it's just half application, and that seems to me best solution. And don't push into HiveMind code.
It's also I don't disagree. I mean, this is what happens.
But definitely, if you think that's bug, please write an issue, and we will take a look on it.
I guess it's an interesting point too. So how much does the notification stuff rely on other parts of HiveMind? Is it something that could be stripped out easily, or with some effort?
Sorry, you are asking for Hive-D notifications, or
No, I'm talking about, so right now the notifications are built into Hivemind as part of the entire Hivemind, but it strikes me that it's probably a relatively separate feature from most of Hivemind.
Yes, exactly. Actually it was related to API offered by Hivemind and specific to condenser and showing notifications on user. So that's only designed for that purpose, and also it marks some notifications as read, and in another request you can return less number of notifications.
Yeah,
That's the problem. Uh, Hard to say without looking for
Yep.
specific
No, I
case.
guess what I was just suggesting is it might even, I don't know that it's worth the time or effort right now, but it's something that potentially could later be separated out to a separate sub app, is what I'm thinking.
Yes, similar to reputations,
Yes.
moving away from Hivemind to Hub.
Yeah. Like I said, nothing urgent or anything like that, but just an idea I had when I was thinking about it.
I think
Because I'm
that
sure it
kind
doesn't
of
rely on most of the other tables.
Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. And this brings my other suggestion is that like notifications are currently a bit limited, in my opinion. You would look for in notifications like something concerning balance transfers, like some incoming money, someone sent you some Hive, some HBD, a power down that took place, you sending out funds like that. This could be a major security hurdle if someone, for example, took over your account and sent funds out. So you would know, you would get a
you'd want a
notification.
notification.
Yeah, exactly. So having this available, whether on chain or via a Hivemind app or a half app, this would be a pretty added value, so that all of a sudden you get a notification, hey, funds were out. Hey, I didn't authorize this. So you would just go and check and take measures to prevent this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have anything, questions or things they want to discuss they've been working on, etc.? If not, I guess we could move on to Hao. I think Hao did you get through all your questions, Hao, or do you want to talk about them now? I can't remember.
No, but we can talk about the. Well, it's one thing that came up during the Berlin meetup recently.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was, so yeah, let's talk about that.
So yeah, basically it's a bunch of people on chain. I've heard about this multiple times, but it was brought up to me again. Are using beneficiaries as a way to reward people, like team members, etc. And which is favorable because you can reward them using like Hive power directly, which incentivizes them to stay. I mean, I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but long story
No,
short.
that's fine. I mean, it's fine. I think I'm just one person in a group of people here. Feel free to explain the whole reasoning.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, basically they really like paying people or at least contributors like creators, etc., using like one post that then has beneficiaries set up to like all of the creators, and that becomes like payment in a way.
Okay.
The issue is that right now beneficiaries are limited to 8 people maximum, and so as far as I know, I don't know why there is such a limit. I remember.
I have no idea.
I remember this was brought up like probably a year or two ago, and we couldn't.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, I believe it couldn't really find why there was such a limit, and it was probably, and our best guess was like it's probably something that was Steemit rolled the dice and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, basically, do we have any strong opinions in regards to increasing that to?
I have no. I mean, as long as there's no performance issue, I don't have a problem.
Or it's like,
it is performance issue.
Oh, it's a performance issue. Please tell us more.
Well, I don't think I
can. Okay, so you 2 years ago, more or less, someone did that research already, and it is because of performance, right?
No, it's quite recent. We'll talk at next meeting or two.
Okay, sounds good to me. It's not like an urgent matter anyways, and it's definitely not going into the next hard fork. And so, Yeah, I'm down if you can like keep that at the back of your mind and give us like,
Yeah.
like a good explanation as to why not, so we can like explain to the community. That'd be great.
Sounds good.
And that's it for me.
Okay. I guess we'll give an obligatory a couple minutes for anyone else that has anything to talk about. I'm thinking that's a no, although it wasn't a few minutes. I think we can still conclude that anyone could have unmuted by this time. So thanks, guys. I guess how are you gonna, I guess, create the transcript, etc. as normal?
Yes. Well, I created is more of the AI will do it, but
Hey, I give you all the credit.
no. To be fair, there is a lot of like rereading what the AI did, and
I'm sure.
and we're not there yet, but it cannot split between like multiple people, so it's just like one dump of text, and you have to like listen to the recording and add like Bertrade said this, How said this, Canal said this. But hopefully
Okay.
one day it'll
So
be
it doesn't
done.
identify the speaker?
I think some tools do, but I haven't managed to
Oh,
make
well,
one work.
I have a subscription to Otter, which I use for legal stuff. So if you want to ping me, I'll run it through Otter, which will do speaker recognition usually.
Yeah, I'd be down to check it out. I can send you the
Yeah.
the recording
Message
file.
me tomorrow and send me the recording straight after, and I'll
Save
send
dev
you back
timing is always good.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'll send you that then. Yeah.
Actually, for podcasting 2.0, there will be some really kick-ass transcript generating stuff coming very, very soon. So I might use that
cool.
as well.
For calls like this, each participant could be recorded in a separate track, and it would be much easier, but I don't know how it's realized.
No. The AI picks out voices very well nowadays, but yeah, I'll help with that tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks, all.
guys. Have a good
Goodbye.
day.
Bye.
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 Thanks. Bye.